Lions of the Southland for Monday, May 26th. Happy Memorial Day. Gentlemen, it's the start of the NCAA postseason calendar for baseball. How are we doing? Jake, you looking a little sunburned there, buddy.
Little sunburnt, little in need of a shave, but it was a good week off. I enjoyed some much needed rest. That being said, I watched just enough of baseball and softball to be dangerously underinformed, but not completely uninformed. How's that?
That sounds like our usual level of experience with these sports, to be fair.
That is
Dangerously
that is
informed
fair.
is like our brand as an organization.
My
Jack,
God,
how about you?
I am never dangerously uninformed. How dare you throw this on me? Anyways, I'm glad we got more baseball coming. That's the main thing here. From what I've picked up from the team, this feels like we have a route to go further than this team usually goes. Uh, if that will happen, we will see. I am not trying to. I want to. I only want to put a reality out there where we win a lot of games. I'm not putting a reality out there where we do our historical usual in situations like this. I just don't. I don't want to believe that's going to happen this time around. But hey, I mean, we are not facing one of the top four teams going into the tournament, which is, I think, important for us because that could have been a very terrible draw that we could have gotten. And I don't think we got the worst of potential draws. Not the worst one. There could have been worse
Yeah,
ones. It's not great. It could have
I
been
know that
worse.
I'm biased towards my big mathematical formula that I run because I lean on this math, and that for listening context, we did just discuss that its hit rate was a little bit lower than usual this year. Um, but I'll give you one guess as to what the numbers that I calculate would say is the hardest regional in the country,
Is it
and
really
it's
ours?
not particularly close.
God damn it! Come on, man.
Yeah, Murray State as our four seed rates with the particular weighting I give these things, and granted they need to be recalibrated in the big power conference era. Murray State rates better than most three seeds, and one of the two seeds in the bracket. So
Well, let's
yeah,
establish what the situation is here first.
yeah,
We
okay, that's probably good.
Yeah, we are going to Oxford, Mississippi for the NCAA tournament. We're the number two seed, Ole Miss being number one, Western Kentucky number three. So our first team will play, and then the aforementioned Murray State is the four. Uh, we play Friday afternoon to start. This is the first time we played Western Kentucky since 1997. I checked. We won like 22-10 in a sweep against them or something like that. It was long time ago. Only Danny Hall was there to witness that. So I mean, here's what I see. I see three teams that we have the firepower to beat on any given day. That's the part that matters to me most here, because it is an up. This entire NCAA tournament is up in the air. There is no clear dominant team that could be like, yeah, we're gonna win this thing. If you told me a three seed wins this whole darn thing when it's all said and done, I would not be surprised because it seems like we're at that stage.
I mean, shoot, I think we're the best team in our regional if we're playing good Georgia Tech baseball.
Right?
But
Yeah.
that requires playing good Georgia Tech baseball, right?
I think to that point, though, and this goes back to something that we talked about all season, is this is a more well-rounded team that has a lot more pitchers that you can trust to get you scoreless innings uh, available than any team since 2019, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
that it provides a different layer of context or like a different perspective is probably a better way to put it on this postseason more than the others that have come and gone because I think all of us remember that Zach Maxwell start versus I think it was Tennessee
Yep.
where he puts in a Herculean shift and then everything just kind of gets away from the team late in that game. The same thing the year before. I don't remember who was pitching, but the same thing the year before versus Vanderbilt. It goes into extras that it's just this endless game in the regional final.
Yeah.
This year, I think there is a realistic chance that you end up you have four guys that you can rely on, and that's you need four or five guys to get through a regional setup like this. But I think again, you have to get through game
And
one, right? You
and
have to
I
get
will
through game one
say
unscathed.
one thing that we, I think, sell a little short, maybe not us, but we as a fan base may sell short about like, oh, Georgia Tech's been so close and all these, hostile SEC environments, yada yada yada. They were playing for the right to play again. Like it wasn't the case where it's you win one and you're done, right? 2019 is a team we talk about a lot, but really since the pandemic, Georgia Tech has not been playing to punch a ticket to a super in any of those games. They've been
Well,
playing for the right to play the next night, and I
right.
think that's the biggest difference where Georgia Tech has the pitching to go 2-0 and maybe 3-0 and be playing, playing in super. So.
Let's not forget last year we did get to that final game against Georgia. Like they were right. They pushed it to the final game of that series, and we had that heartbreaker last game against Georgia when we were up in that game, right? Or it was I just remember it was a 1-run game, uh, where we almost came back. If Ben was here, he'd tell us the whole story. We have a great story time
Well,
for about 20 minutes. But like we,
I mean,
but
I don't know how
last year,
great
but
that would
but
be.
but no, no, no. Like yeah, they lost by two in 10 innings, but that wasn't a game to play a super. That was Georgia Tech lost to UNCW in the first round in an ugly game. They came back
that
and
was
beat
bad.
Army and beat UNC Wilmington. And then that same day, they were playing UGA for the right to play again on Monday. Georgia Tech has not been playing to
Oh, I
go
thought
to a
they beat them one time.
super.
Okay, I mixed up that
No,
RB game
no.
and that's
Georgia
okay. Okay, okay. Yep. I hear you.
Tech played UGA a grand total of what was it? 4 times last year, and it was three
Three and a half,
losses and a
three and a half,
cancellation.
3.5 times. Yeah, one of those games just didn't happen.
It
Right,
probably would have been 4 if they ever finished that game. Let's be honest with
right.
ourselves, right? Like it. This is a team that has the arms to go deeper, and to that point, I'm now going back and through and checking. The year before, they didn't make the tournament, and because I want to be correct in all this. The year prior to that, they were in Tennessee. They lost 9-6. Herculean effort. Zach Maxwell. We all know the deal there, but it was the same deal. They lost in an ugly game early to Campbell, came back, won 2 games,
Yep,
Alabama State and Campbell, and
yep.
then lost to Tennessee. And I am fairly certain that this next one's going to play out the exact same way because I think we lost to Indiana State in the opener. No, we beat Indiana State in the opener, then played a tight game against Vandy, beat Indiana State going away, and then lost in 11 innings to Vandy. So these have all been tight games, but we have not been playing to go you know, play a 3 game series for quite some time. And I think Tech does have the pitching to get there, right? It's
Yeah.
a matter of playing good Georgia Tech baseball, but Ole Miss, Western Kentucky, and even Murray State are not slouches. I'm not going to say it's like a Mercer softball draw scenario there, but like
Right.
it's not that easy either.
It's the most prepared we've been for a situation like this in a while, which I think is what we were figuring out early in the season too. It's like, okay, we know we've got McKee who's threw a lot of good Friday starts, and then Brady Jones developed into a quality start after quality start kind of guy. So then you had two, and then Jalen Payton just doesn't allow runs really for the most part on Sundays, and so you get there's three, and then you throw Patel in where you need to shoe him in usually on Friday to finish up the first game. But he was used twice in the ACC tournament, both against Cal and Clemson. So they got 4 arms that can do that. In theory, with the bats hitting at their usual rate, which is 8 runs a game, which wins you most of your games. It's there is a path. Yes, it's hard, but like we have beaten better teams regularly this year at the same time. So
I think keeping it at there is a path is probably as confident as I'm willing to go. Just knowing how these tournaments have gone.
right.
Let's go through the pitching matchup for Friday real quick. So that first game versus Western Kentucky. Looking at the leaderboards for pitching on D1 baseball, they have 2 good starters that they could throw. I didn't see anything about availability in my quick Google search. Jack, I don't know if you had any other updates, but it seems
No.
like Jack Bennett will be the guy to get the ball on Friday. Opponents are hitting 236 versus him. He has a 12-5. I think that's walks to or a K to walks ratio. His FIP is sitting right around 3.9. I think his ERA is sitting right around 2.7. So he's getting a little bit of luck with where balls have been put in play. and how his fielders have reacted. But in combination with a Drew Whalen, who's their second guy, who has a 3.2 ERA, opponents are hitting 2.26 versus him. He has a fifth that's a little bit more in line with his ERA. Like, these are two good guys that you might see in that you win this game. Maybe you see them again if you lose to Vandy in that winner's bracket game, or not Vandy. Sorry, you lose to Ole Miss. I've 2021 on the brain. You lose to Ole Miss in that winner's bracket game. You maybe see Whalen in that second game, but they're no slouches, and they're very, very good. So I don't know if you had anything on availability, Jack, any other pitchers to mention, but I think that sets the table nicely, I guess, in terms of how our pitching or lineup is going to react.
Yeah, that'll be the main crux, is getting through these guys, whoever we face. We'll probably throw McKee to start on Friday. That's just, they've been kind of the team. Danny's been holding tried and true to the pitching rotation. If they can hold to it, they'll hold to it as much as they can. So I don't see why we don't see McKee to start things out. Because I don't think you want to burn Brady, or unless they want to move Brady up, they could, but I don't think they want to. Just knowing that in theory you got Ole Miss coming in game 2, and you need to have one of your most reliable guys ready to go for that, and you might need Jaden Payton for that game as well. So that's the main thing, is do all the scouting you can do on Jack Bennett, figure out those tendencies, and then exploit what you can early. Because the thing that will set us up for success the most is having a lot of runs in those first 3 innings. Like, do what we did against Cal in that first inning, which I know it's a lot to ask, where we hit 7 homers in that game, but at all the same time, get early runs to set the tone. Like, if we're playing from behind, that's going to be a problem, and I know that's been a usual thing for us in these NCAA tournaments. We play from behind really early on, and it stretches us to our limit, and we just don't have the muscle to get through to a potential game 7 or getting into the winner's bracket. So that's the main thing. And the guys have been hitting well recently. Like, we scored 5 against Clemson. Like, we had chances to get back in that game. Clemson hit really well on some mistake pitches that we threw. So I'm not at all exactly not hopeful with our bats as well, because we played really well going down the stretch. Like, we beat up Duke, we beat up other teams coming in. So if we played better against Clemson than we probably did in that first series against them earlier in the year in that game too. Patel, I know, threw some really good innings. Like, the stuff's there. Like, I'm not worried about that necessarily. It's just a matter of actually doing the thing. Like, that's what it all comes down to. It's like, all right, are they seeing the ball well? Are they going to do fine? Playing in the day or playing in sunlight. I don't know how that probably doesn't matter. They play in sunlight, they play in darkness, whatever. Yeah, it's just get the hits early, so that hopefully you don't have to throw Patel in at the end, back after that game. You can throw in literally anybody else.
I think to that point, though, that, and maybe this sounds like a cliche, but that top of the lineup jumping on starters early has been really successful, and keeping that aggressive stance, I think, is what we are going to see moving forward.
Yeah.
Right. Especially Burris in that one spot where he's been hitting, even if he's not hitting a homer, he's putting a ball into play and getting a double out of it. Right. Like,
yeah,
that kind of setting up your 2 and 3 guys with runners on base, or runners in scoring position. If Burris is hitting a double, I think that is a good way to start. And then you have a lot of other guys at the top end of that lineup that can move guys around. Or move guys around the base path. So I think continuing to stay aggressive. I mean, it sounds very cliche. It sounds very, just sort of keep the engine going, right? Keep guys moving across the base paths. That is the key to success here.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, just hit homers and like go up 7-0 in the first inning, and maybe this just all works itself out, right?
Easy peasy. Nothing wrong with that. Yeah, that's easy enough. I can't hit homers, but I know they can hit them.
Yeah, the first 2 innings, especially, I guess, doubling back to the ACC tournament, which I don't think we talked about at all to lead this off. Tech went 1-1 at the ACC tournament. They were the 1 seed as the regular season champion. A win versus a very hot Cal team that came in that won 2 games the first 2 days of the tournament. And they had a rally Baby Yoda and something called swag sauce, which scares me to describe. In the first game, and they came out hot. I think they put up a bunch of runs on Cal early. and then a loss to Clemson, in which, to be fair, Tech jumped on Clemson early in that first inning again,
Yep.
had three runs there, and just kind of got lost in the shuffle in the middle innings. So that again, that early scoring and it being in that positive game state and not having to play from behind and panic and push both at the plate and on the mound is a very big key for me because to both of
Yep.
y'all's points, that has cost Tech in previous iterations of this tournament.
Yeah.
Jake, anything from you before I don't know, we could talk about Ole Miss for a little bit. We could talk about Murray State, but maybe we'll do a short science extra when we get there.
Yeah, I think the upshot of all of this is like you can't really go, oh well, like it's because of such and such bias or because of this, that, and the other thing. Like at the end of the day, like my unfeeling math had 14 SEC teams in, and that's more than they actually got. So like I, I don't know. It's a weird year. It's a weird tournament. I think Tech maybe got a little dinged from things outside of their control, i.e. conference schedule, Stanford turning into a dud, maybe chief among those. But even then, we saw it. There's no easy out in the ACC this year. Cal, we played them 4 times, and even though games that weren't quite as close felt close. I don't know. Maybe that's me just being a little bit of a anxious Georgia Tech fan. At the end of the day, I think there's something to be said about scheduling a little bit more ambitious in the non-con. A lot of preseason, early season tournaments now, but it's not something that you can write home against. Now, if they were really going for narrative, they would have put a Danny Hall home regional in his final year here there. So maybe if anything, it's them being impartial and talking about KPIs and metrics. And I don't know. I I'll put it like this. The way I came to peace with it is I realized we can still lose 4 more games and win a national title. That's the nature of this sport, right? And
Yeah.
and at the
Yeah.
time I thought this up, it was 5 because I was thinking about the ACC tournament. But I don't know, like there could be a lot of baseball left, or it could be two and out. That's how hard this regional is going to be. And I don't know. I think the most of WKU and Murray State, and certainly of Ole Miss in their own ballpark. That's not an easy place to play. So maybe you just kind of hope that Murray State deals Ole Miss a loss in the first game, and
There is that.
you
That's true.
know,
Like we could get the back end of Murray State's bullpen and things like that if we're lucky, and that we were set up
hmm
way nicer in that second game compared to where we probably are going to end up. And so like there's a lot of back end nations here that I don't really want to you can say
yeah.
game two is going to go chalk. We face Ole Miss and they're fine, whatever. But with how loaded, as you mentioned, this regional is, like there's a lot of different ways games 2 and 3
Yeah.
can go for whoever's in those games.
And that's the thing too, is like it's a scary regional, and yeah, whoever Tech would face after that, it wouldn't be a tough out, or would be a tough out, slip of the
Right.
tongue, like yeah, it's a 1 and a 2 seed we're familiar with, and maybe think that they can handle, but that's this year. I mean, that's its baseball season for you. There's a lot of very good teams out there. There's no, you know, the team of destiny, like well, and even when we see like a team of destiny, that Tennessee team that Georgia Tech played, that was supposed to be the unending world beaters. They lost to Notre Dame in their own building. Like
Yep.
that, they didn't even go
Yep.
to Omaha. Like
Yep.
that's the sport. So
Yeah, look, LSU with Paul Skeens and Dylan Cruz ain't walking through that door again.
Nope. Nope. They out.
not unless some real strange eligibility requirements start
Jake,
changing.
Jake, off the top of your head, do you think if we had gotten past Clemson and reached the final, that would have made any actual adjustment in whether we were if we were going to get that 16th spot or not?
See, I think that's something that there's a great podcast where the selection committee chair talked with the D1 baseball guys, and part of me walked away from that being like, oh, we're already up a creek with no paddle because of scheduling and stuff like that. But at the
Right.
same time, like I don't know, like yeah, UCLA and Oregon. wound up 15 and 16 in the RPI, but did any Big Ten team really pass much of a smell test? Georgia Tech finished at 21 in the RPI. That's pretty low for a team in a geographically dense region of regionals. Like
Right.
that's
Right.
I don't know if one game moves the needle that strongly, considering the game before. I'm pulling it up here, or the day before, because this is the time of year in which the nitty gritty gets run every week. Georgia Tech was actually had a slightly worse RPI before actually no,
Before
sorry,
playing.
that's 20. I'm looking one day off. We had one slightly better. Still, you're at 20th, maybe you come down to 19th. This is
Right.
a period in which, these metrics, whether it's USI or RPI or Massey, they're all relatively stable. And, I think that Georgia Tech in DSR rated a little bit better than the RPI, but that's where you get dinged for some of that schedule stuff. If you rephrase the question to if Tech pulls out the UGA game
Mm.
or the Clemson or the UGA game and the Auburn game,
Yeah. Yeah.
then I think we're talking, because that also is dinging
It's
a little
different.
bit of a different
Yeah.
conference. It's those are there's more variables at play there.
Right.
Clemson, Georgia Tech had already played them 3 times, right?
Right.
Maybe it's you flip that Clemson game in the tournament and
Yeah. If we win,
and
if we
one
win
in the
that,
regular season.
yeah, if
Yeah,
we win the
you
ACC
know.
tournament too, that would have been such a weird. Like, who knows how much that changes our nitty gritties here? Which is, I would know what the committee was looking at a lot, but be like they would still have to ask the. They would probably still be asking the question: are we letting the ACC regular season and tournament champion not host a regional here?
Well,
Like, they'd still ask.
I think that would have done enough for the math to put him at like what, like 17, 16 at the very worst, and then
th-
you're
That's
looking
reasonable enough to
at
flip over. Yeah. Yeah.
exactly, especially considering what the other two teams coming out of the ACC side were. But at the end of the day, I think if we're gonna flip one run or two runs, right? It's that
Hmm.
Auburn game where it's going to be the biggest
Mm.
difference, I think.
Gotcha.
Especially with how they rated out Auburn. I don't know. That's one that kind of it confused me a little bit to see them in the top four seeds. I'm a little closer to Massey in my opinion. Massey had them closer to I think 12th,
Mm.
not fourth.
That's definitely not fourth.
Yeah, USI had them. I don't even think they had them in hosting range. I think it was there a or a good 2 seed type of
Mm.
thing. But hey, like I said, the numbers need to get recalibrated. It's pretty clear. Like getting most of accounting for bid stealing. I think maybe it's fair to say you get four of the 20-ish at largest wrong, but you want to recalibrate. It's a new year. It's a new league. I don't know. We're in a strange field. Also, in that there's a lot of parity in addition to the not having a super, like those sound like they're the same thing, but they're different, right? Like
Right.
I feel like you could slot a lot of the lowest 1 seeds and highest 3 seeds on any given day. They're going to be really competitive with each other. So
Right. And they mentioned on the broadcast when they were doing the reveal when they talked with the whoever the Southeast Louisiana guy who's the chair of the committee right now that like UConn
that
got
guy.
left out and he's like there was only 8
Hmm.
spots really left for anyone that wasn't a Big 10, Big 12 or I mean sorry, that wasn't a Big 12 ACC or SEC team when it was all said and done because the rest of the power conferences like it was pretty cut and dry who should be in and who shouldn't be in for the most part. UVA
Yeah.
was in the first 4 out. But it's just like there's only when you have way more than 8 teams definitely that could reasonably play well if you give them the opportunity. Like
Well,
it's such a weird it is a weird situation we're
and
in.
you have 3 bid steals, right? So I think my four that were out that would have maybe mathematically been in were UConn, Virginia, A&M, and Notre Dame, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Notre Dame and Virginia did not look good to start the year. A&M was the preseason number one, and they fell
Right.
off a cliff.
Yeah.
Like UConn's a pretty deserving entry there, but then at the same time, they didn't win their league, which, Xavier and Creighton were both pretty good, but they were all kind of in this like middling bubble miasma mess, right? Like it didn't seem clear that all three would make it, let alone, or sorry, that two of them would make it, let alone all three, which only one wound up making it the auto bid. And then you've got Nebraska, who is 55 in RPI, not a bad team, but kind of jumping up and grabbing one. UTSA lost their conference race to to ECU. Again, historically a great program. They've hosted regionals several times recently, but was like mid 90s RPI. And then, oh my gosh, there's another one. I'm blanking on it right now. But yeah, that's how those funky machinations work, right? Like that's where you wind up not getting that auto bid. And I don't know if I've said this on the air yet, so we can, but I know I've said it into this mic today while we were warming up. Honestly, the most surprising thing out of all this has nothing to do with Georgia Tech. It has nothing to do with the ACC, though I think four bids might have been deserved there in terms of hosting. I think it's the Big 12 not having any regional hosts at all.
Yeah.
Really solid league, and you see the Big Ten getting two versus not one of West Virginia nor TCU getting in the mix there. That's
Right,
pretty
yeah.
surprising to me. I would have, especially with no other team that far to the Northeast hosting, I would have expected particularly West Virginia to be in that mix there. But hey,
Yeah.
I don't know. There's geographic dispersal arguments for and against, but you got Corvallis out there. Do you really need are Eugene and Los Angeles really the most deserving leagues when they, I don't know. Big Ten was kind of a pretty big dud this year, right?
Right. Yeah. Not much Big Ten action going on this year at all when it's all said and done.
Nebraska is the most historical Big Ten team to make the field,
Right. Right.
right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
down year for Indiana. Who the heck knows what's going? And then Michigan was kind of on the wrong side of the bubble. Really a soft year for those Big Ten classics, if you will. So I don't know. I think Big 12 not having any sites and Big Ten getting two was far more shocking than anything that happened with Georgia Tech. I feel like it kind of played out as honestly as expected for us, and they're going to go play in a cool environment. I'm excited for our fans who get to go see Georgia Tech play in that environment, and maybe it's a lesson to say, hey, with these unbalanced conference schedules, you need to have another major non-con. But again, season's not over, right? We got a lot of baseball left to play. They're playing at least two more games. So
We got that. Hey, we could get a Miami versus Miami national championship. That is possible.
I'm sure that
No,
wouldn't be confusing at all.
Yeah, not at all.
I'm also just so sure they definitely did not put us conveniently to face to face the winner of the Athens regional by happenstance.
Well, I mean, there's no guarantee there. Like any combination of Ole Miss plays Duke, Georgia plays us, Georgia plays hell. I mean, like there's like five different teams you could say they're going to make it out of these two combined pods here. So there's no telling where that regional's going to be, and it could be here. It could be in Atlanta for all we know.
Yeah. Hopefully it's a Binghamton that we're hosting in the Atlanta regional.
That'd be awesome. Yes. Big Binghamton fans this weekend.
New York's baseball team, baby.
Yeah. Truly the
last
Rutgers
note-
of New York,
The last thing on NCAA seeding, by the way, the SEC tournament kept running. During Texas A&M games, they kept trying to do subliminal messaging in their like green screen advertising on the backstop, where it was like SEC last 5 national champions, SEC last it's like 7 of the last 10 national champions, like really trying to subliminally build this case to put Texas A&M in the tournament, and then it didn't happen. So great job, Greg Sankey. Great job.
I have one more thing I just want to slide in there. Sneaky good 1-0-1-0 game, hopefully. Vanderbilt, Louisville, not in the same conference, but two teams that generally try and get on each other's midweek schedules. At least they have in the past, particularly in baseball. It's a very short drive, two very passionate fan bases. I'd expect that one, if that goes to be Louisville Vandy in the 1-0 game or with a spot in Omaha on the line, that might be one to tune into in terms of kind of opening round local interest, that kind of thing. There's maybe you could argue USC Oregon State if that happens, just given the whole like pack explosion that happened and whatnot. But yeah, and then Oklahoma Nebraska in the opener there. So good stuff to watch for around the league. I think it'll be a fun weekend just in terms of how it all shook out.
Yeah,
good stuff. Let's talk about golf real quick. NCAA championship final round is in action, or I guess was in action this past weekend. Tech was in a playoff for the quarterfinal round with Wake Forest. They lost by 1 stroke. So as a team, Georgia Tech is out of the competition. But Hiroshi Tai is still live to defend his individual title, and Carson Kim is also still in action later in the weekend, as well as individuals. Hiroshi, I think, has a lead on Carson Kim, and even he is 10 shots back of the leader. So we'll see how that works out. There's still a whole lot of ball game left on that one today.
I did just get a note from the team. If it is a Georgia, back to baseball, sorry. If it is a Georgia Tech versus Duke Super Regional, we go to Durham.
What?
Yep. Duke is, yep.
Duke is the higher seed.
That's what they said. That is what they said.
I mean, I imagine that they're correct. I very much trust their expertise in this matter.
It is because they are coming from a higher seeded regional. Georgia's number 7.
That makes
Ole Miss
sense.
is number 10.
Yep.
So
Okay.
I think we mentioned that with maybe when we were in Tennessee or Vandy. One of the recent years. I think I remember that being scuttlebutt. So yes, the gears are turning in my head now.
Yeah.
I don't like it, but
so we've got to hope for a 3 seed to come out of that or I think no, it just doesn't matter at all.
No, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Let's go to Binghamton. That would be fun. That'd be pretty cool. That'd be like they talked about that for years, kind of thing. You know.
Yeah. So our potential landing spots then are Binghamton, Georgia, Durham, or Oklahoma State.
I don't want that one.
I don't want it. No. Jack, give us a Survivor update, please.
Yes. The finale's over. So season 48 of the show is over. Eva did make it to the finale. She made it through a very, very challenging fire making competition and finished second, which is in the money technically, all said and done. So she is now of the 2 Tech competitors, she is now the highest ranked or the highest finisher ever to come from Tech and play on the show. We now average a 3rd place finish across our 2 competitors. So we're doing pretty stinking good when it's all said and done. I'll note for people that like maybe don't watch the show regularly outside of when we mention it, the 50th season is next spring, and so if you watch the show when it came out a long time ago, there will be some returning cast members that are much more famous than the people that are on the show now, in case that matters to people out there. But otherwise, yes, we did very well in that, as we usually do.
Good stuff.
Yeah,
I think that's about it. It's the start of the summer. It is very close to the start of summer. But we still have some baseball left to play. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us today. Jake, give us a shout out to our sponsor.
I got to shout out Section 103. I'm like freaking out here. I'm like, we're running out of time for me to get this ad read in, guys. No, as always, this podcast is brought to you by section103.com. Never too late to mention them. We love working with them, and we love all of their Georgia Tech related stuff. Keep an eye on their site. I was going to transition to golf using the mention to vote for the golf shirt again because it just languishes in that poll. But as always, they've got lots of great Georgia Tech stuff in gold. Of course, there are also hats, stickers, outside of the traditional shirt and sweatshirt realm. Give them a look. They also have gift cards too. So if you don't know what to get one of your Georgia Tech loving friends, get them a gift card too. I don't think I've ever mentioned that one, so there we go. New content for you, new mention. Free shipping on orders over $80 every day. Use code FTRS for 10% off. You can find them at section103.com and at section103 on Instagram. I think that brings us to the rest of our mentions. Anything else you guys want to plug before we go?
I would say go to a game, but
softball tournament, by the way. NCAA softball tournament, by the way, has been really good. It's been really competitive. Okay. The 1 seed went out in the.
Let's talk about the Athens and Durham regionals real quick, because the one time I need Duke to do anything for us, they didn't do it. So that was disappointing. See that one despite being in a secluded place somewhere, getting some much needed rest. So thanks Duke. The one time I need you to do something, you can't do it. So.
The coolest thing about this about softball this year, by the way, is that the one national seed was Texas A&M, and they got eliminated in their own home regional. which was fascinating. I mean, I think it
Very.
sounds like Oklahoma is still barreling towards its 5th consecutive national title. So whatever, but
That just sounds like
we'll,
Texas
we'll
A&M
see.
doing Texas A&M things. That's all I heard just right there.
Just one more oil baron will do it, bro. Just one more.
They're just like highways. Just one more $10 million check. Just one more. They'll get it done. We'll never get it done.
It's a good
Just a
tournament.
life.
I've enjoyed watching bits and pieces of it over the last couple weeks. The Texas went absolutely ham on Michigan, and then they came back down to earth versus Clemson. Um, it's been a really good tournament. So if you have a
Yep.
chance, go check that out. I think we're almost done with Supers. This weekend is the Supers, and then they're
Yeah, this
off to
weekend was the
Oklahoma City.
Supers.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, Oklahoma City next weekend, so go check that out.
Yep. As always, this podcast is presented along with our written content at fromtherumbleseat.com. Email us content fromtherumbleseat@gmail.com. Ideas and suggestions always appreciated as we race towards the summer here. You can find us on Blue Sky. I'm at Jake Grant 98. Jack's at Jack Nicholas over there. Akshay's over there as well. Of course, we mentioned Section 103. Of course, section103.com and at Section 103 on Instagram. We are at From the Rumble Seat on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. You can find this podcast wherever fine podcasts are distributed. We'll talk to you again soon, pending the results of Georgia Tech baseball. But until then, good night, good luck, and go Jackets.